that feeling when you try to learn something new and it just seems so damn difficult? Like maybe you wanted to switch careers or you want to try some learning a new skill. Feel like, damn man, that is so difficult to learn. AI is here. It can break down information, give you some visualization, and of course, to top it all off, it can actually teach you. Let's put that to a test. I'm a software engineer by profession. I always wanted to become a neuroscientist. Let's put this AI to use and see whether it can actually help me learn or to become a neuroscientist. Can it really do that? I'm super curious to find out. Let's get to it. In an ideal world, like you would have all of the information, all of the skill set, like in the movie and in the Matrix, where you can just download everything in your brain and you would just overnight, over a few seconds or minutes, you would just have that skill ready to go. That will be awesome. This is the real world. That is not happening. And no matter how fast and fancy the AI is, it's not the Matrix. Or is it? Maybe. One thing you can't really replicate is the actual experience. So for this challenge, like obviously I can't just go to a medical school and learn everything in just 5 minutes. When you try to learn something, there are two types of things. The one is the conceptual knowledge and the other are the procedural skills. The conceptual knowledge is basically the theory and everything that you learn conceptually, and the procedural skills are the things that you actually apply those conceptual knowledge to do the thing. If I was to become a neuroscientist, I would learn everything about there is to the brain, that is the conceptual knowledge, and apply them to different medical trials and all of that sort of stuff. I don't know what else do neuroscientists do, but they sound really cool. So basically the application of the conceptual knowledge is the procedural skill. Obviously I can't get the procedural skill right now, so for this challenge all we gotta focus on is just to get down to the conceptual knowledge. I don't have the time to go through 4 years or 5 years worth of medical lectures of conceptual knowledge all in one go. That will be too much to ask. So for this thing I picked one lecture that I have no idea about because I study code, not brains, and I'll try to learn that as fast as possible, maybe in 90 minutes, which is the actual length of the lecture. Can I use an AI teacher to actually teach me all of this stuff? When I say the AI teacher, is essentially me just prompting. So I spend about 90 minutes trying to learn this lecture, and I can't obviously, for the sake of this YouTube video, give the entire 90 minutes of me just trying to learn this thing. But here are 5 things that happened while trying to use AI as a teacher to teach me the limbic system lecture. Number 1, I was super motivated to learn this thing and super excited. And within the first 10 minutes, I fell asleep. Yes. The thing was, it was so boring and I had no context, obviously, because I'm a programmer. It just felt very daunting and I just fell asleep. All right, I want to complete this challenge. I got myself back up, grab a cup of coffee, and I'm like, let's do this again. This time, I'm not gonna go to sleep, but I'm not gonna just straight on tackle this thing. Clearly, I will literally go to sleep if I do this. Number 2, what I did was I essentially broke down the lectures into smaller bits. And the way you do that is on YouTube, almost most of the videos that have English language, or maybe some other languages as well, not sure. But primarily I watch videos in English. So most of them, or 99% of them, have a transcript. So in this case, the entire lecture in text form. I essentially took that, copied and pasted into Anthropic, and actually told it to break it down. And voila, I have the entire lecture broken down into smaller subsections and things like that. But one thing I actually did as well was I didn't actually exclude the timestamps. What I told Anthropic was like, hey, I want you to break down this lecture with the actual timestamp. If I want to skip to a certain sections or whatever, I know what timestamp it is in, so I can quickly go back to the lecture and look at that understanding, which makes it super easy and convenient. Number 3, even with the entire lecture broken down into smaller subsections and things like that, it was still quite difficult to understand. I heavily used the active recall method, which basically means you're trying to force yourself to think about the material that you know rather than just rereading scripts or just looking through the lecture passively. For that, I tried to use some quizzes from Anthropic, but I found out that it wasn't as good as my own custom made Quizmaster app that I built. So I just started using that, and that was actually quite helpful because it helped me down concepts, it helped me understand different things and identify where my knowledge gaps are. Number 4, while I was going through transcripts and things like that, I realized I need quite a lot of information. And just from the text itself, it was very difficult to understand what the terms mean and what was the context around them. Reading the transcript was super boring. I found myself going back to the lecture quite a bit and rewatching certain parts again and again. What I did realize was you can actually shorten the lectures by quite a bit. In some lectures, there's a lot of dead sound, pauses, or things that are not relevant to the lectures, and you can basically cut that thing down. So what I did was I imported the entire lecture into I used the AI in Descript to actually remove the non-relevant bit, and it essentially shortened the lecture by 1 hour 14 minutes rather than 1 hour 30 minutes. I know it's like a 15-minute difference, but this professor is highly proficient. But if you try this on other different lectures, like you will find yourself, you can most of the time cut the lecture in half because it's just so good. And plus, I watch lectures at 2x speed or 1.5 speed, so that also overall speeds up the entire lecture and the process of actually getting the information and reviewing them, which is actually pretty cool. Number 5. So whilst I was going through the lecture and using the Quizmaster to test myself, to test my understanding, I identified there were so many things that I didn't understand, and there were like certain knowledge gaps that was very apparent, like I just don't know about these things, which might have been really basic for medical students, but for me it wasn't the case. What I did was, for anything that I found that I don't understand, I asked Anthropic to actually create a visualization for me. So whether that's through mind maps or using diagrams, what really worked was just asking why and trying to make sense and trying to relate the material or that very specific thing where I have the gap on, where I don't understand, like how does it relate to the point above, how does it relate to the next point, how does it relate to different things, what is the overall meaning of all those things. It was a combination of using all three, like using visualization techniques from Anthropic, using my Quizmaster, and of course watching the shortened lecture in 1.52x speed. After all of that, I managed to learn the first part of the lecture in 90 minutes. Yeah, it was hard. But after 90 minutes, I was thinking to myself, look, I've spent all of this time, and clearly one of the things that was really apparent, AI is really fast, it's dumb, and it's flawed. That it can't replace the hard work that you put in. Like, it can make things easier for you, or the process of learning a lot easier for you, but you still have to put in the hard work, and there is no shortcut. But what if I had more time and I just kept on pursuing this? I'm gonna go through this lecture, and even if I didn't have the energy, even if I didn't understand different things, I'm pretty sure I would have gotten through the entire lecture. And then if I get through the entire lecture, I can actually go through more lectures, and if there's more lecture means that I can understand and gain more conceptual knowledge. And eventually, if I was in medical school, it would have helped me quite a bit to actually overcome, difficult topics and become an A-star student essentially. And the point isn't to become an A-star student, it's to become a really good kick-ass doctor that can save lives and save the world. And that's a really awesome goal. And all of that could just be done with a systematic approach, where in my case, the systematic approach was constantly like reflecting upon the materials that I've learned, not going through the entire thing at once and then trying to recall, okay, what would it make sense? After reading something, trying to understand like what it was, how much do I understand it, does it actually really make sense to me? Then I utilize multimodal learning using AI. So there's text, there's voice, there's images, there's diagrams, there's writing, and of course, like you can actually draw out your notes and actually upload them. These large language models will be able to understand that, which is quite amazing. So you're utilizing this all sorts of multimodal learning, so make it as interesting as possible to learn the most boring things in the world that could potentially save lives. And more often than not, just by practicing and repeating this process over small different chunks, you're able to build this huge block of your understanding of this material, which is actually quite amazing. But essentially all of this thing just breaks down into, the metaphor, what was it? Eating the elephant one bite at a time. So it's literally when anything that you do, when you're trying to learn something, everything can be learned, any skill can be learned, and given enough time and energy. Essentially, for me, my personal thing is like most of the time, people are just bogged down by how much information, how complex those things are. And if you can break them down into smaller manageable pieces and make them interesting for you, that it's easier for you to understand, then there is no problem. What if you could learn anything that you wanted to learn, anything that you thought was difficult? What if you could break down the most wanted thing that you actually want to learn in your life and implement them and just break them down into smaller manageable chunks in a very interesting way? What if you can learn all of the skills that you wanted using this method and essentially learn new skills and improve your life? That will be amazing, isn't it? That's what I aim to do over here. AI is not a magic bullet, it's not going to do the hard work, but it sure as hell will equip you with machine guns and rocket launchers to break through those mental barriers and allow you to learn as fast as possible, to gain the skills as much as possible, so that you can live the life that you want to live. Until next time.